Hello and a very good day everyone. So today we will learn on Power Query where we will transform the initial raw data to the desired output. As we can see over here in this particular database, we do have a student, test and results. So all these three columns is located in one table. So basically I just want to change, I want to pivot or transpose the table, and then instead if just say there is no particular subject and whatnot, the data should be shown exempted. So let's get started. So the first thing is what I need to do is I need to highlight the entire table. So our first step, highlight the entire table, and then you go to data. Once you go to data, you need to go to the area of get and transform data, and then click on from table slash range. Once you click this, a box will appear, and then you just press OK. So once you press OK, you will be navigated to Power Query Editor. So in this Power Query Editor, it is where we will do some cleaning and whatnot. So what you can do is, since we want to transpose or we want to put this test or subject as the header, we select this test. Then what we do is we go to transform and we click on pivot column. So we click on pivot column, and then you will notice that a box will appear. So next thing is we want to pivot the results. So what we do is we click results, and then we go to option and we click don't aggregate. So once we click don't aggregate and we press OK, so now this is how the data looks like. So basically if you see here, there is null, null and null. So when there is no data or where there's a blank space, instead of showing blank space, it will appear as null. So I don't want the word to be written as null, I want it to be written as exam. So what I do is I select this tree, and then where I go is I go to replace, and then once I replace, so I replace null and replace it with exam. So when you look here carefully, when I replace, I'm not able to press OK. Why? Because if you look here carefully, all this particular database, it is in a numbers format. So what I need to do is I need to change all these to a text format. So I go to transform and I go to data type and I change into text. So once I change into text, then eventually I can change all this, all the null into exam. So what I do is I go to replace value, and then I click null and I replace with exam, and then what I do is I press OK. So once I press OK, so this is where you go. So you go to home, and then you go to close and load. So when you press close and load, it will load as a table format in a new sheet. So I want to close and load to. So once you please click on close and load to, you will notice a box will appear. So you can either load as a pivot table, pivot chart, or also create a connection. So I want to load as a table existing worksheet, which is somewhere over here, and I press OK. So once I press OK, so now eventually you will notice this is your format. But if you look here carefully, what happened is when we pivot column, the data will be arranged in an ascending order. Because if you look here carefully, here we have Aiden, Andrian and Amani. So the data will arrange in ascending order automatically. But what if just say I don't want the data, I want to be something like this, but follow this particular format, particular arrangement. So how to start ensure my data starts with Aiden and then Andrian and then Amani. So let's get started. So now what I do is I go to part 2, and then I'll do the same thing. I have to highlight the entire table, and then I go to data and I click from table slash range. So from table slash range belong on get and transform data area. So I click it over here, and then a box will appear. So then I press OK. So once I press OK, we will be navigated to Power Query Editor. So similarly, like what we do for the previous step, we need to select the column. But before I select the column, what I want to do is I want to press right click, and then after that I want to duplicate this. So I just want to duplicate so that we do have table 3 and table 3. So this table 3, what I'll do is I want to group this. So I go to transform, group by, and then basically what I want to do is I want to group the students. So the students, and then I'll just put here all rows and I press OK. So right now you'll see it will be Aiden, Andrian, Amani, and this group you can just remove. Okay, so I'll go to this initial table again, and we'll do the same thing. I'll just click the test column, I go to transform, I click pivot column, and then after that a box will appear. So I will just want to pivot on the results and make sure it doesn't aggregate. So don't aggregate, and then I press OK. So now it looks better. And then what I do is, since we have all this is in a number, so I select all these columns and then I change the format to text. And then since why I change to text, because I want to replace the null with exempted. So I click all these columns and then I replace the values with from null to exempted, and then I press OK. So now it looks better. But the thing, like I told you, once we pivot column, the data will be sorted A to Z. So we basically want the data to sorted in this particular listing, this particular arrangement. So what I can do is I go to home and then I go to merge queries. So we want to merge table tree 2 with the table tree, and then we want to merge this. So if you notice, you can't press OK. So you must select the common column and this particular common column. So this column and this column are similar, and you have a status of selection matches 3 out of 3. And then what you can do is you press OK. So once you press OK, and then you can expand this. So what I want to do is I want to untick the student, since we already have a student name, and I want to untick the original name because I want this name to be appeared D1 and whatnot. So now this is the data, and there you go. So this is the database. So what you can do is right now is you can press close and load to, and you can actually click only create as connection. So I just want to only create as connection, and I press OK. Why I press only create connection? Because it will load other data also as a connection. But if just say you want to load this as a table format, what you can do is you can press right click and then you can just go to load to. So once you press load to, you can choose table and you can choose existing and you choose it somewhere over here, and then you press OK, and then so there you go. So now it will follow the particular format.